So then, as a result of this, there arose, in the latter part of the Middle Ages, an enormously complicated system of celestial bookkeeping. It was argued, you see, that the saints, and especially the Blessed Virgin Mary, had lived lives of such sinless character, even though to be a good saint you have to say you're a miserable sinner. I've often wondered about that. But therefore, they have many merits that are surplus merits, that they don't need in order to get into heaven. And therefore, by a very clever dispensation, the surplus merits are put at the disposal of the Holy Father. And they are available in the form of what are called indulgences. And if, therefore, you make certain pilgrimages, or say certain prayers, or make certain contributions, above all, you may receive a plenary indulgence, which means you get off the whole of the time due to you in purgatory, or a partial indulgence, which say of 300 days, which means 300 days off your period in purgatory, whatever days in purgatory may be. And so an enormously complicated banking system was set up, whereby people could settle their heavenly accounts by using credit issued by the saints, who were, of course, producing surplus goods like machines. So now, this is why I made in the earlier part of this seminar such a big point about human behavior being able to be seen at its deepest level, at which level, and only at which level, it is completely harmonious with the order of the universe. This is what one is enabled to see by cosmic consciousness. By seeing that the good things and the evil things that human beings do are just like the behavior of other creatures, animals, insects, worms, fish, and flowers, and that the good side has to have the bad side to balance it, so that you know that it's good. In the words of the Taoist sage Zhuangzi, those who speak of having good government without its opposite misrule, and those who speak of good behavior without the presence of its opposite bad behavior, do not understand the great principles of the universe. It is as if they could have the yang without the yin, the positive without the negative. And such people must be either knaves or fools. Now that's a saying which really sets us back, because we Westerners are dedicated to the abolition of evil. And but the Jews are much more sensible about this than the Christians, because the Jews don't think that evil is something extraneous to God. They believe that God created evil, for it is said in the book of the prophet Isaiah, "I am the Lord and there is none else. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things." And they believe that God implanted in the human heart at the beginning of creation, when he very first made Adam, something called the Yetzer Hara, or the wayward spirit, because he knew that if that wasn't there, human life would be insipid and without the least significance. There has to be this element. And so the Jews say, yes, God is responsible for evil, but he put it in us so that we could have something to fight against. And so in this way, you can see at one level that the evil side of things is part of the total harmony. It must be there. But that the function of its being there is to give you something to chew on, to work at. You will never get rid of it, but the joy of life is being in the process of getting rid of it. So in other words, you might say that the function of the devil is to be always losing the battle, but never finally lost. And the function of the good side is to be always winning the battle, but never to be the victor. And by this means, the pot is kept boiling, interest is kept up, and everything is kept moving. So that, of course, if we solve certain economic problems, for example, and we have a world where people are not committed to drudgery, we shall discover social evil in some new form. It's exactly the same as when you're worried sick about money, and are you going to make the payments on the house and the car and all that, the insurance. You think, if only I could have a lot more money, I'd be so happy. And then somehow you get it. And for a few days you're ecstatic and walking on air. Then you suddenly realize that you might get sick. Or that someone, the government or burglars or something, might take your money away from you. And you start worrying about that with just the same intensity as you had formerly worried about not having enough money. So we always find, if you are a worry bird, you will always find something to worry about, no matter what happens in your external circumstances. And so we may be assured that when the human race goes to full economic prosperity, and there is nothing further to be worried about in the way of housing and clothing and food, that we shall instead worry quite fervently about something else. Because you see, we are always really in the same place. This is the basic understanding of relativity. It always reminds me of Sir Cedric Hardwicke when asked about his life. He died just a little while ago, and he lived, therefore, across the centuries. He said, if I had really had my wish as to when I would have liked to have lived, I would have liked to have been a grown adult in the high Victorian age with penicillin.